Welcome to the Busy Signal. My name is Jim, and this is my retrostalgic 80s, 90s, and early 2000s podcast. This show aims to salute all the stuff from back in the day that is now extinct or quickly going that way. So here we go, part 2, video games. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. This is technically episode 20, part 2. So everybody for the last 20 episodes who has listened, subscribed, liked, commented, reviewed, just a huge thanks. Let's talk some video games. Korey and I, like I said, we have lists. They are in no way ranking lists. These are just games that we had growing up. They might be our favorites. They might be ones that we were stuck with. I know Ghostbusters was for me in the last episode. So, Korey, welcome back.
Hey now.
How you been, man?
Been a busy summer so far. I've been everywhere from randomly doing radio broadcasts remotely down the shore to weddings on boats. Yeah, it's been a crazy one.
To doing this podcast. Thanks for fitting us in, man.
Wouldn't have it any other way.
Excellent. All right, so I'm going to get cracking. We had a really good list last episode. I want to keep that rolling, and I'm going to kick it off the best way possible, I feel like. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game. Did you ever play that?
I played the physical arcade game.
Oh, yeah, it's a coin eater, that's for sure. But they ported it over to the NES somewhere around 1989, 1990.
Introducing the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game, today's biggest hit. For your NES. Free personal pan pizza coupon from Pizza Hut in every box.
The cover art, I need that as poster form on my wall somewhere in my basement. That's what I need. It's a fantastic cover art. They're all busting out this brick wall. You know, Michelangelo's on like a skateboard, as he should be. It's a side-scrolling beat 'em up, and it requires 2 players. I'm serious. 1 player is not enough for the amount of foot that are coming after you. And the bad guys, Bebop, Rocksteady, Shredder, Krang, they're all there, and they're really hard to beat in 1-player mode. If you are out there saying to me, I beat it in 1-player mode, well, then you are on another level. I cannot beat that game by myself. I need another person. I can get pretty far, but man, would you agree 2 players is the way to go?
I mean, when I played the arcade game, it always is. Half those buttons don't work anyway, so you need as many people possible.
Those buttons don't work because that game is the definition of a button masher. I mean, the best attack sometimes is just the jump kick. You jump up and then you just kick forward. And then you got to get right back up again and go to the other side of the screen because they're coming at you from the other side of the screen. Now, my thing is, it's very important when playing that game to choose the right turtle. And I believe there's 2 right answers and there's 1 mid answer and there's 1 absolutely wrong answer as far as it comes to choosing a turtle in this game. The wrong answer is Raphael. Those sides are too short. You're just a little stabby guy over there. Meanwhile, they come at you with bow staffs. You're done. Which is why the mid answer is Michelangelo. He's still a little bit limited with those nunchucks. The good answers are Leonardo, because he's got the samurai swords. The best answer is Donatello with the bow staff. The music for this game, I know we've talked about music in the video games, but this has a really, it's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles theme at the end of the day, and it's rocking. I think they do play some other songs and they're pretty good, but I just want to hear that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I don't care if you hammer it on repeat. The other thing I like about it is there's a lot of surprises in there. It's a lot of side-scrolling, very little platforming, beat 'em up, but like sometimes guys will pop up out of the sewer and throw sewer grates at you. Billboards will fall. Cars will randomly come at you. I don't know why, but sometimes massive bowling balls will fall out of stairwells. That is enough to keep it interesting to me. Plus all of the classic villains for Turtles. I think they have Casey Jones in there. I forget what the guy with who's like a kind of a fly. I forget what he's called, but he's in there. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game. It's a staple. It's a classic NES game, even though it was a port over from the arcade.
And we're going to go to what eventually became named as Mario Brothers 2.
Are you talking about Doki Doki Panic?
In Japan, yes. And with different characters in it, yes.
Have you ever played Doki Doki Panic?
I have not.
I have.
But it's the exact same game, right?
Exactly the same with different characters, and it's weird. It's just weird to play it that way because we're so used to having Mario in there, but yeah.
Right. For those that know the backstory is, there was Mario 1, it was a success. Then they went and they made a second game. I guess the people in Nintendo were just like, well, this is literally the same game. It looks the same. We need something different. So they kind of, I guess, trashed that game. It eventually was released.
Yeah. Not only was it the same game, essentially, but somebody in Nintendo America basically said, this is too hard. It was too hard, so they scrapped it, like you're saying.
I never beat what they referred to as the lost levels in Mario All-Stars.
It's insane.
You'd get through all 9 levels, and then it goes into A, B, C, D, and E, I think.
I can't remember, but it looked like nothing changed. They used all the same sprites and just put way more bad guys. It was so hard.
Right. So that's where the poison mushrooms came in, but I digress. So Mario 2, basically, like now all of a sudden you have Princess Peach and she can like fly when you hold her. There was a lot of interesting things. Luigi did this like almost like slow motion pump kick through the air.
It was like a flutter.
Yeah. So I mean, at the time it was cool. Again, this game didn't have any save points, so once you died, you died. I don't think I ever actually beat that game. I think maybe the furthest I ever got was level 4, maybe 5.
I think I beat it, but it's many years later, and I was on an emulator using save states. So I have seen the ending firsthand, but man, it is hard. It is hard. The music's great. I did not like that game at first because it was so different. And I was like, I don't know any of these bad guys. And the funny thing is that you never see those bad guys again, ever. Like Mouser or the dinosaur that like shoots eggs out of her nose. You never see that again.
No. And it's like, also, where are these characters from?
Right.
Super Mario is back. He's blasting through worlds where no one has ever been. He's taking on enemies no one else dares. This time Mario plops up power wherever he goes, so he's bigger and badder than ever before. You've never seen creatures like these. You've never had an adventure like this. It's everything you've dreamed of and worlds more. It's Super Mario 2, only from Nintendo. Now you're playing with power.
It was out of left field completely and now we realize it was slapdash. But the things that I liked about it that they kept going forward even to today is the Princess Peach float and the Luigi flutter. I love that. Like they have their own physics.
It's really awesome that they've kept that still in.
I think they even used the Princess Peach float, like how she floats. I think they even might have incorporated that into the new Super Mario Brothers movie. They paid a lot of homage to a lot of different games, and they definitely kept that physic for her.
The more you know.
Da-da-da-da. Here's one of those games that I didn't go out and purchase. It wasn't a game that I necessarily wanted, but it was a game that I ended up with. Like, I think I had a friend who was moving away, and he ended up giving me a couple games. And this was one of them. I'd never heard of it before. I don't think I've ever heard anybody mention it. It's not a classic game, but it is interesting because it's made by the company Rare, who in later years would end up making Donkey Kong Country. So when you say Rare, you're like, oh, and you think Donkey Kong Country, and you're like, this was amazing graphics. Donkey Kong Country blew me away. On the SNES, that looked 32-bit, well, on a 16-bit system. For the NES, Rare made a game called High Speed, and it was pinball, and the graphics were awful. It was one of those games that I had, and it's like, summertime, 1995, and I was bored, so I decided, let's try this pinball game. And then you get into it, and you're like, all right, it's hard. I'm going to start putting some reps and get good at this. Like I said, the graphics were fuzzy at best. The controls, they were tight, sometimes too tight, and things would happen very fast. And the premise for the game was, it's called High Speed. Your ball is, use your imagination, is a car, a high speed car. You're a car chase. You're hitting this ball and it's going up the board and you're running through stoplights. You're blowing through stop signs. You're going through neighborhoods. And then you hear like a voice come over over your television. It's like, it's this muffled voice, but you could tell it's like a cop. Randomly, like helicopters will kind of like float around trying to get you, and eventually get like multi-ball mode. It ended up being really fun, but only kind of like out of my bored necessity was it fun. I don't know that if I sat down with it today, I'd make it 10 minutes in, because I'd say, one, it's probably too hard now. I don't feel like getting good again. And two, I'd rather go play another Rare game. I'd rather go play Donkey Kong Country.
It sounds like I know that I'm never playing High Speed.
No. I'm not telling anybody to go out there and play High Speed. It's just, like I said, one of the games that I had. And I think it's interesting that this was made by Rare, who ends up making one of my most beloved games of all times.
Back into the Mario world with this one, but this isn't your normal Mario. This is a game called Dr. Mario.
Ooh.
Now, as a kid, I don't know, when did you get your first computer?
I want to say I remember having a computer in the late 80s, probably an IBM machine.
So So the first computer that I got was definitely in the 90s, mid to late 90s. A neighbor of mine was moving away, and it was from the 80s. It had the giant, 16, whatever floppy, the 8-inch, whatever the heck those giant gimmicks were.
There's 3.5-inch floppies, and those were the harder discs. And then there was the 5.25-inch probably, those thin ones. Yeah, they were actually floppy.
So this computer had a couple of games on it, including a game called Tetris. Eventually, I came across, through the wonders of Funko Land, this game called Dr. Mario, which is essentially Tetris with just different colors and Mario themes and blocks that are double colored and pills. They're meant to look like medicine. So I like to keep it simple. I don't like anything technical with my games. I just want to mindlessly have fun. So Dr. Mario was the perfect cure for that.
I called the witch doctor, he told me what to do. He said, ooh-ee, ooh-ah-ah, ting-tang, walla-walla bing-bang. That means play Dr. Mario on Game Boy or NES. Ting-tang, walla-walla bing-bang. I beat the witch doctor and this is what he said. He said, ooh-ee, ooh-ah-ah, ting-tang, walla-walla bing-bang, ooh-ee, ooh-ah-ah. And then he shrugged my head.
Dr. Mario, I think, still lives now. I think there are still different reincarnations. It's one of those games that have just stood the test of time because from a standpoint of a manufacturer, it's definitely probably easy to make. You don't got a lot of work to do in it, and you could put something out with the name identity and something that, you could even have Grandpa come in and probably get the hang of and play as well.
It was definitely a really good reinvention of Tetris, even though Tetris did not need a reinvention at the time. I think I played the arcade version, and I didn't realize there was an arcade version, but I found an arcade version. I played it, and it was that's a fun game. It's very colorful.
Yeah.
Fast paced. I like the little virus guys that you're trying to kill at the same time. Great game. Dr. Mario. Another game that I just had, and I did like it at the time. I have since tried to play it, and it's just not as fun in later life, but for when I was younger, it was a lot of fun. Adventure Island. You ever heard of Adventure Island?
No, I haven't.
They made 3 of them, and I think they ended up making like a Super Adventure Island for the SNES later, but it was kind of like a Mario, but in the jungle. You're this little character. He only has a pair of shorts on and a hat, and he is running through the jungle, jumping over rocks. Eventually he gets like a skateboard, and you're skateboarding through the jungle, throwing like stone hammers at little bad guys, and everything's coming at you fast. You have to move fast. The only problem I really have with Adventure Island is the game physics, because you're running at all times. Like Mario, you're running at all times. But even when you're walking, it's kind of like you're running. But stopping feels like you're on ice. Like you're running on what is supposed to be grass, and then you go to stop, and then you still go like several feet.
Would that be a traction issue because he doesn't have shoes?
It might, I don't know. I want to say yeah, but it's so bad.
In reality, that's a push.
Yeah.
But I am more inclined to, maybe if I'm running to try and stop myself with actual grass, slide a little bit more traction-wise without shoes on, just saying.
Yeah, but the other problem is, even though you're sliding on grass, there are ice levels. So imagine how much more you slide. If you're at the left side of the screen, you have to stop before you fall off the other side of the screen. It's just, you go that far. The bosses are not necessarily hard once you figure out, every boss has a pattern. You figure out that pattern, and it's really simple as far as design goes, because every boss kind of looks the same. They just have like a different head. And when you beat them, the head falls off. It's fun when you're a kid and you're bored, but when you're an adult and you have choice and no, Adventure Island is not what I'm reaching for. Maybe one day I'll give it a go again, but Adventure Island was fun. The music was cool. I don't think I cared for the second and third ones. I didn't like those, but Adventure Island, if you played those, if you know, you know.
So when I was a kid, I had a Super Nintendo, and in the Super Nintendo, we got a baseball game. It was called Super Bases Loaded 2. Eventually, I realized that there was the original Super Bases Loaded, or actually it was just regular Bases Loaded, that they had for the NES, so I picked it up one day at the Funko Land. Now, what I will say is this, as we've talked about before, graphics did kind of get better for the NES, and the graphics for this aren't bad. The playthrough is, I'd say, easier, considering that coming from playing, a 4-button on the Super Nintendo to just a 2-button.
Yeah.
You know, your controls are swing or pitch. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like it was what it was. But obviously, just like everything else, your playability is limited because of the fact that you can't have save states. You don't have the ability to customize things, and that's what I ultimately like about the 2 and the 3 versions that were on actual Super Nintendo. But a good all-around baseball game that came out in, I believe, the early 1990s.
I remember Bases Loaded. That was a fun game. Like, it was good if you could play it with other people. 2 players definitely the way to go. All right, my all-time favorite NES game. Super Mario Brothers 3 is my absolute favorite Super Mario games as far as Super Mario games go.
He's back. All you had to do was ask. Super Mario Brothers 3 from Nintendo. Now you're playing with power.
I could just spend hours and hours with that game trying to get everything. I don't think I've ever, I don't know, can you 100% that game? I don't remember if it's 100% if it did that, but man, I tried to find out everything I could, all the nooks and crannies. But after the kind of different weirdness that was Super Mario Brothers 2, Super Mario Brothers 3 did it right. It looked nothing like Super Mario Brothers 1, but it had a familiarity to it of Super Mario Brothers 1. The graphics were much better, way colorful, and it introduced that world map. And there were 8 of them. 8 levels, and there were like 7 or 8 little mini levels in them, and we had mini games. All of a sudden we had, the match games that you would do, or you had like the little mushroom huts where you could go get extra, whistles or raccoon leaves. And speaking of the raccoon leaves, the introduction of Raccoon Mario, that's legend right there. All of a sudden he can fly and float like Princess, but even further. Man, Super Mario Brothers 3 was the best. If I could dock it for anything, it would just be that you could not play 2-player at the same time. It was a 1 at a time, like Mario would go. And then if you had a second player, then you had Luigi. I want to be playing 2 at a time, kind of like Super Mario Brothers was on the Wii when we finally got that. Super Mario Brothers 3, obviously.
This was going to be, either 4 or 5 for me, so I'm just going to tag along and we're going to go with this one too. Such core memories. We talked in the last episode about how, you'd be playing a game at dinner time and you hit pause and, maybe turn the TV off and come back to it. I have memories even of like, of doing that specifically with this game of like, all right, well, we're going to go drive about 40 minutes to your aunt's house. We're going to go swim in her pool. And then for the afternoon, we're going to come back. Okay, cool, that's great. TV off. Come back later and be like, please still be on. Please still be on.
That game is the definition of pause and come back to it.
I mean, you got to those boat levels near the end where like as you're going and it's shooting the cannons.
Yes. The flying ships are awesome. They're just so much fun. The flying ships and the Koopa Kids.
Right. That is probably the most fun out of the 3 original ones.
Absolutely.
Because of what we said, the advancements that they did, the things that you can do with each person, the ability to fly and go up and get more things and just be like, what's up here?
Yes.
Sometimes there was nothing up there. But if you could fly, you wanted to see what the heck was up there.
Sometimes there'd be like a random pipe. Sometimes there'd be like a line of clouds with a whole bunch of like coins up there for you. It was a great game.
Hours of entertainment. It's one of those things where even me just talking about it now makes me want to find time to go hook up a system and play that game.
Yes. You know where I like to play that game the most?
Your couch?
Dun, 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 dun. Yes. But no, what system? The NES was great, but they revamped that game several times. And I would have to say that when they put out Super Mario Brothers All-Stars, it looks fantastic in Super Mario Brothers All-Stars. But they did re-release it again on the Game Boy Advance, and it really looks good there. Do you remember Bowser's level? It was level 8, and it was all fire. It was all fire. Everywhere was fire. The whole map was fire.
Yeah, as you're getting closer and closer to him, the fire's coming. Yes, see?
And then like randomly you'd get on like what should have been another level and like a hand comes up and grabs you and pulls you down into the fire and now you're playing another level. It's insane. That game was nuts as far as that goes.
See, I spent a lot of time working the lower levels, but I know that I made it there once, but I couldn't tell you about that hand fire. I remember, like I said, the fire through the screen. I made it to those points several times. But, My hand-eye coordination sometimes. I just would always blame it on the controller, for being honest.
I think one of my favorite levels was level number 4, the giant level.
Yes, where everything just is bigger for some reason, but you're still the exact same size.
Yep. And I think my least favorite episode, because it's so frustrating, is the tubes level, where it's just all pipes and you have to get in the pipes and somehow you keep ending up where you started, even though you got into a different pipe.
I have a whole weekend off in front of me, and I think that I'm going to cancel all my plans of power washing and cleaning this house to devote all that time to playing Mario 3.
I wish I could join you. I think I might try and find a way. Good call. Good call. All right. I think we could do a whole episode of Super Mario Brothers 3. I'm going to finish this off then, since we both had Super Mario Brothers 3. I'm going to finish this off with a game I loathe just as much or almost as much as Ghostbusters. And once again, it's a licensed game. It's a movie licensed game. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure for the NES was such a bamboozle, just like Ghostbusters was a bamboozle. I mean, I loved Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I have seen all of them. I went and saw Bill and Ted Face the Music a couple years ago in the movie theater, even though there was COVID going on. I went out to the movie theater to see Bill and Ted. Love Bill and Ted. And this might be spicy, but that's Keanu Reeves' best role. To play that dumb so convincingly, the man is a genius. So this game was frustrating on several levels. I still love Bill and Ted. This game doesn't change my mind on Bill and Ted because I still have all the movies, but I was constantly lost. There was no map to really tell you where to go, and if there was, it wasn't very intuitive. What I really remember from playing this game for hours and not getting anywhere was being in like medieval times and throwing pudding cups at villagers to have them not beat me up. If I ever did make it to my phone booth to use the Circuits of Time, that was not easy at all. The game controls were not easy to use. I never knew exactly what I was doing. Maybe I needed to go back and look at the instruction booklets because games used to come with instruction booklets. Nowadays they don't. They kind of build in like a training level into the games, and they teach you how to play the games live along the way. These little fluff levels where they're like, oh, press A to do this, B to do this. Did you know if you press select, you can do that? That is what this game needed, and it did not have. I don't think I need to hate on this game too much because it just was so bad. I don't even know if it's worth my time. Maybe one day I'll fire it up and see, maybe as an adult, there was something I was missing, some kind of instruction that I needed to figure out, or something I just wasn't putting together. But I honestly feel like at the end of the day, I might just be just as frustrated as a 40-something-year-old as I was, like as a 10-year-old.
This is just a quick rabbit hole question, but was there ever a video game to a movie for the NES, Super NES, that was actually decent? It almost seemed like anytime a big movie would come out or a TV show, there was even a home improvement game for Super Nintendo, like it was just a licensing thing where it's like, cool, great, we'll license this and put together like the world's worst game, but you're still going to buy it and you're still going to play it. Like people talk about, what was it, Aladdin for like all those systems, like nobody's ever beaten that game without the Game Genie.
Aladdin is a good game. It's a hard game. I would have to say, as far as Disney licenses go, the cheapest, like how hard it was, The Lion King. That was insane and stupid hard.
I had that too. But that was more of my point. It's like we sit there and everybody trashes the Bill and Ted.
Oh, E.T.'s like what? The GOAT of the worst ones.
Right. So I'm saying, like, when you start to talk about it and think about it, like, I'm noticing a pattern here. The pattern is movie licenses, because why not make more money by attaching it to it? We're going to make money. You're going to make money. There was advantages to putting out trash upon trash back in the day, but, you know, you could get away with it. Nowadays, not so much.
Off the top of my head, if any one of them gets a pass, it would have to be, for the NES, it would have to be Batman. Not Batman Returns.
Okay.
Batman. It looks dark. Batman looks good. The physics are good. The gameplay is fun. It kind of loosely follows the story. I mean, you get to see Jack Nicholson as the Joker and some splash screens, but generally it is a hard game, but it is fun and it's not impossible to beat. So I would make the argument that Batman stands alone. I don't hate it. All right, that does it for Nintendo. This, once again, was not a ranking episode. This was just the games that we had and enjoyed. Thanks, Korey, for hanging out. If you've got anything you want to plug, now's the time to do it, my man.
Of course, like I say every time, you can catch me every single Thursday night. I like to play the old dance music from the 60s, the Motown disco from the 60s through the 90s. We broadcast it on the radio, 92.9 WZML. It's a little show called The Record Hop. I've been doing it since the year 2010. I got it down pat and out these days. So if you're ever looking for something to do, unwind right before the weekend starts, we meet 7 o'clock on a Thursday night.
Korey, thanks for joining us, man.
Pleasure to be here.
Later. So once again, thanks to Korey for talking video games. If you have any requests about any future console or games that you want to hear on the episodes, on the show, hit me up. Instagram at BusySignalCast or BusySignalCast@gmail. As I stated at the top of the episode, thank you for all who listened and participate in this little community that we are building, the Busy Signal. Catch you later. Cheers. Once again, I'd like to say thanks for listening. And as always, you can listen to the Busy Signal everywhere quality podcasts are streamed. Hit the subscribe button to have a new episode delivered directly to your favorite device every other Friday. If you really like the show, leave a 5-star rating or a positive review on Apple and Spotify. That lets everybody else know to come check out what you already think is awesome. You can also head over to Instagram and follow the show at BusySignalCast for even more retro-nostalgic content. I share a good amount of fun stuff that isn't mentioned on the episodes. While you're there, say hi in the comments. Don't be shy. And until next time, remember, reach out and touch the past.
Wild style!